Hello, one and all. In tonight's riveting video, we're going to be discussing the complete and utter failure of logic behind the passport bro. I want to call it a movement, but it's not really a movement. I just think a few impulsive people risked it, took their chances abroad, and then came back with their tails between their legs for the most part, from what we see on the on the internet for the last few years. So I wanted to discuss it from a different angle. Usually, when these things are put up online, I'm very skeptical. I would say I'm naturally a critical person, pretty discerning. And today on the live, one of our viewers, Seb, who's incredibly smart, he said, I don't believe the 4B movement. And I said, why ever not? And he said, because it sounds like marketing for another industry to deal with like self-pleasure. And I thought that kind of makes sense. It reminds me of when there was those conspiracies that said that PETA was the creation of the meat industry, and but they made them so obnoxious that people would buy more meat, And I thought that kind of makes sense. Or the people who like vandalize whatever art or property in the name of the environment, well, that's going to spike the sales of things like electric cars that we know they're not good for the environment either way. So it's like, it's kind of fascinating. So I thought about it and I said, you know what, I get it, but I'm so sick of this like gender war nonsense. It's literally like little boys and girls in the playground. But even little boys and girls in the playground show more human decency and cooperation than these adults on the internet do. So I thought, okay, let's actually think about it from another standpoint, because just to preface everything, as you know, if you come to the lives, you'll know I don't really believe any of this. I believe that by demonizing everything, the opposite gender is the fault, the immigrants are at fault, this other race is at fault, it's not you, it's your parents, it's not you, it's your family. It's like everything can be wrong. At some point, you have to sit and reflect and say, where's this coming from? And I'm convinced whoever is allowing the circulation of this information or misinformation just doesn't want you to come to the realization that it's just a massive classist issue. Okay, we just have too many people that are suffering so much that they need something particular to blame. So instead of saying, hey, we can resolve this in 5 minutes, we can fix the world, you know what, go blame each other, just go fight one another. And it seems to be working. It's worked pretty well up until now. So that's why I just don't believe it. And whenever I tell stories where I was like, oh, this man was really nice to me, I don't, get me wrong, I do get lots of people who are like, that's not possible, he's a man. And I'm like, well, not all men are bad people. Just like not all women are good women. That's just the way that it is. So you have to discern for yourself. Okay, you have to discern for yourself. So why am I so discerning, or rather critical? I'll say, why am I so critical when it comes to the passport bro movement? Because the whole thing is hinged upon this idea that Western women have lost the plot due to feminism. Not, first of all, not all Western women call themselves feminists. There's plenty of traditional women. Unless you've been asleep and under a rock or just not online for the past year. Have you heard of Ballerina Farm? There's a huge uptick in what we call like trad wife life. Okay, so there's plenty of traditional women in Canada and America or wherever else, or the United States, pardon me, whatever. So why are you going abroad to find these traditional women? This is what I find so fascinating, because it's got nothing to do with gender. It has nothing to do with feminism. It's simple economics or lack thereof. Simple capital. Okay, it's capitalism. It's simple. It's a financial issue. That's all it is. That's it. That's the whole video. What's that got to do with anything? Because think of it like this. There are traditional women here, so why aren't you with one? Because you cannot afford to be with one. And so what they purport to do is to go abroad and bring someone from there here who they also cannot then afford, because you cannot sustain a family. You cannot sustain another person on your income. They will also be put to work, right? Why are there, let's call, whatever, less traditional women in the West? Is because they have to work. And because they work, they have their own money. So they have more freedom and independence. Now, given the choice, a lot of people don't want to work. But that means their spouse has to be able to afford to keep them at home. So if you want a woman that's at home, you have to be able to afford her. So I don't understand the logic, and that's it. There is no logic. It's a failure of logic. Of passport bro logic is there isn't any. So if you cannot afford a woman here, you bring anyone from anywhere. Here, you cannot afford that second mouth to feed. They will also need to go out and get a job. So that's not very traditional, is it? So that's what I find very, very funny. So clearly, you're going to need to get two jobs if you want a traditional woman. And it means you also have to be a traditional man. This is why I also don't like the spoutings of Andrew Tate. He talks about traditional values. He has none. He's a human trafficker. He literally went to jail while he was under suspicion while they're building a case against him. Okay? And there's enough evidence. There's enough evidence. So even if he's cleared, we know what time it is. Okay? You know it and I know it. We both know it. So you are not a traditional person. You're not a traditional man. He is hardcore into the acquisition of wealth. Before anything, he has a love of money. That's the kind of person that he is. He doesn't appreciate women. And now, like with his supposed recent conversion, that I'm very suspicious of as well, he doesn't have Islamic values. Those are not traditional values that he, maybe he's Muslim in name, and I pray God opens his heart and makes him faithful, but I don't see it, right? So this is the thing. It's a very flawed, backward, non-existent, I can't even call it anything. It's just there's no thoughts behind those blank eyes in any of these people. This is an economic matter. You can find someone that you really like and understand both of you are in a financial position because of the virtue of the fact that we live where we live. These are high cost of living places, etc. Okay, well, I'm in Canada. It's especially expensive. I'm in Toronto. That's just the way it is. Whoever you fall in love with, you're probably going to have to see them go off to work every day. And if you want to keep her at home and be happy and bubbly and doe-eyed and fresh every day, making sourdough loaves and muffins and pancakes and making your gut flora ever, ever happier. Your gut biome is thriving with all that sourdough starter. You're, forcing into your gullet day in and day out. Well, it costs. It because Tasia Alexis, she say it costs to live like this. Well, it costs. Okay, so it's not that women are reluctant to; they cannot afford to. And it's not by their choosing. Women did not make that system. Men did. So if you're going to take credit for things like men built roads and men sent people to space as useful, that's very fucking useful, right? Who needs healthcare when you can do that? You should also take credit for the failures as well and better yourself. Be a better version of yourself. Be more understanding. So I would never be threatened by such a notion, So instead of ruining a woman's life here, you're gonna bring her from somewhere else, isolate her, and then ruin her life, which is absolutely crazy. So yeah, be very discerning, be very, very skeptical. And that's one of the methods in the Shogun method of seduction. So we're covering Dark Seduction and Persuasion Tactics by Emery Green on Patreon. And he does explain that. He's like, one of the best things you could do, which obviously I never recommend because also it's, it's a form of abuse and coercion. It's illegal, is to isolate somebody. If you can actually get somebody away from everything that is familiar to them, their culture, their language, their local coffee shop, their family, and then replace it with everything that's familiar to you, they're much easier to control. They're much easier to coerce. But that's not love. That's control. That's coercion. That's manipulation. That's not love. So I think that's why a lot of people get frustrated because they think like, well, why aren't they into me? Why doesn't this feel good? It's because you took their identity away from them. How can they love you? They don't even know who they are. So anyway, it was just fun. So next time, you're faced online with some serious trolling, as I seem to have the talent for doing every week, getting trolled, you just say to them, your problem isn't actually with women. Women, like any other human being, like love and positivity and attention and communication and care, a little tenderness, Um, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. It's just, we live here. That's just how it is. So you're either going to cooperate and work together, or you're going to try your luck and compete, which again is not very good relationship mentality or relational people who have relational intelligence. They're cooperative people. Okay. So you're going to stick it out, make it work, or you're going to go try your luck, compete, and then probably ruin your own finances in the process. But it's a risk that we take. The things we do for love. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that explanation. I hope it's a fresh take. I do see too many people online just so apt and so quick to have a knee-jerk reaction, like it's because all these women or men are always all this and all that and all this and all that and da da da. I think I just think that you all drank the Kool-Aid. You all bought into it. You all really believe this, and I think it's something much bigger than that, and it's not natural to us. I think human beings are social mammals, which is true, and we work better together when we cooperate and make things work. So, yeah, if you demonize women here, chances are you're not going to find much goodness on the other side of the world because it's a mental mismatch. You have a mismatch of culture and mentality. It's not the actual people that you have an issue with. You just haven't figured it out yet. But anyway, I hope this has been fun for you, and I look forward to other questions and comments. And thank you so much for writing to me. I get emails, I get inbox, whatever, DMs on Instagram. I haven't opened my requests in TikTok in a very long time. So I think on there I can only get messages from people who are like friends with me. But you can leave questions in the comments or on here, and I'm always happy to get back to you as and when I can. Anyways, I wish you the best, and I'll see you on Patreon. We have running series on Confessions of a Reformed Chauvinist, which is fascinating, and Dark Seduction, and Never Settle series, and a lot of astrological stuff coming into the new year. We covered the US election. And yeah, I hope you enjoy, and I love you all for now. Bye.